Hello everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Now let's start with today's topic. When I posted this episode, you all saw the title and guessed that our topic today is whether money can buy happiness or not. This is a big and quite important question. However, first, to find the answer to this question, we need to answer the even bigger question, which is what purpose we came to this life for. Today, we often hear such big questions, but I believe more or less of us have asked ourselves such questions. Actually, these are very important questions, and if we don't find the answers, we will easily fall into a state of living by inertia, which means seeing how things around us do. Then we do the same and gradually we forget what is really what we need. Personally, when I was younger, I didn't think too much about this, but as I get older, I worry more and more about questions like this, especially after the age of 30. I started looking for answers to those big questions, and in the end I discovered that the answer is actually very simple. It can only be summed up in 2 words. Happiness. It is not true. Must be wealth or success or fame. I believe that those things are just a means to bring us to the ultimate destination, which is happiness. So what is happiness, and why do we sometimes hear things like this? Is money not able to buy happiness? Or a more common question is, what is a lot of money for? But people who say things like that are usually people who have a lot of money, so why is that so? Happiness is the final destination, but money can't buy happiness, so why is everything in life we revolve around making money? Whether we should stop making money or not? That's the question that at one time I worried a lot. In today's episode, I will share with you my journey to find these answers for myself and understand them. Through that, I hope I will share with you a framework, or more symbolically, a map that I have drawn to prepare for my journey. Hopefully, with this map, you can use it to find your own answer. So in this map, I divided it into 3 floors. The first floor I call it the survival floor, which is the survival floor. If you know anything about marketing, you probably know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in which the lowest level is the basic human needs, without which we cannot survive, such as we must have enough food to eat and enough clothes to wear, and when you get sick, there is medicine to take and a roof to cover your head from the sun. That's why I use the word shelter and not house or home, because of the level of care. The most basic thing we need is a place that protects us from the dangers of the surrounding environment. And house or home, we start talking about comfort. Those are some of the most basic needs without which we would almost not be able to survive. If unfortunately without them, frankly speaking, our lives would be like a fullness gate. Imagine if we eat today not knowing if we will have rice to eat or not, our clothes are ragged. When we are sick and there is no medicine, it will be a very difficult life. Then at this moment our focus is on having enough of these basic needs. For those whose lives are still having to run for food, and not having enough clothes, it is impossible for us to we can say words like freedom or happiness to them, and the solution to all these problems for the first floor is actually very simple. It's just money. Money will help us solve all the problems on this first floor. We can use money to buy food for ourselves, use money to buy clothes, buy medicine to take when we are sick, use money to rent or buy a house to protect ourselves from the sun and rain. Everything is very simple and clear. The reason I use the word simple here is that the meaning is that the answer is very simple. This means that as long as we have money, we can solve everything. There is no need to add any other factors. Of course, for people in this situation, how to get money is one of the important things. Other aspect. And it will also be very difficult for them, but what I mean here is that the way I solve it is very simple. That's why I always encourage you to do it. Financial freedom journey, because the financial freedom journey is the most effective way for us to avoid having to fall into this state. If you still remember, the beginning of your financial freedom journey actually helped you get out of debt and gradually escape financial dependence. It could be from our parents, it could be charity organizations from which we gradually can have enough money to meet our basic living needs and our basic living needs. That version is floor number 1 in this chart. Once we have enough money to cover these needs, that is also the time we start the basic foundations to find profit. Solve the problem for floor number 2. And this second floor is freedom. In order to have freedom, we must be free from the constraints of insecurity in our lives, because only when we can completely complete these constraints, only then will we begin to have the freedom to build the components at the 3rd level, which is the level of happiness. So what are these insecurities? The first insecurity is the insecurity about money at the first level. We can see that we can solve everything by money, and the way the vast majority of people often work is by exchanging their labor to get money to meet these basic needs. However, if we just stop there, our lives will depend on money, and as I have analyzed many times, this dependence makes our lives always in poverty. Trouble. Insecurity is that as soon as we lose our job, we will immediately fall into the first level, so the way to completely eliminate this insecurity is to get rid of this insecurity from this insecurity. Influence of money. Otherwise, we will forever work for money and will no longer have the mind to find value in happiness at higher levels. Next, the second freedom that I set for myself is freedom from material things. Because as I shared in the series of articles about minimalist living, material things will be what connects us a lot, and it will make our lives more and more burdensome, and those are two freedoms. The biggest reason I think is that any of us should have it in any way. Besides, in my case, in my formula there are two other aspects of freedom. These two aspects are only important to me, but maybe not important to others. It's very important, so I'll just briefly mention the reason why I have added these two aspects to my formula. The first aspect is freedom from worries in life. There are many things that make us worry, and my goal is to eliminate as many of these worries as possible, and the biggest worry is worry about health means I set a goal that every time I have a health problem, I can rest assured that I can be taken care of by the best services without having to pay for it. Don't worry about anything else. The second worry is about safety, which is about being robbed or having an accident on the street or meeting a bored guy who stabs you or shoots you. That is the worry about safety. Safety. And finally, there is another factor that is very important to me and maybe not so important to some others, which is the freedom to go anywhere and live with anyone. Any country I want is the definition of my freedom from money, freedom from material things, freedom from worries, and freedom to travel and live anywhere. And as I said earlier, each person's definition of freedom is different. Even if it is the same, the answer to each question will be different depending on each person's life. So therefore you need to sit down and determine what your freedom will look like. Now looking at the right column of this floor is mindset plus money. That's because unlike floor 1 where almost all problems are solved with money, on floor number 2, in addition to if we have to accumulate a certain amount of money, besides that, we have to build another aspect for ourselves, which is mindset, as I shared with you in the previous series of articles. To do this, to achieve the journey of financial freedom and a minimalist life, one important and indispensable factor is that we must build a mindset that knows we cannot complete this journey if we without building a mindset of knowing enough for yourself. Those two factors are money and mindset, which will help us gradually achieve the goals of freedom in this second level, and only when we achieve this freedom will we be able to achieve freedom. You can rest assured that you can build aspects at a higher level, which is the level of happiness. This is the highest level and also the most difficult level to achieve. The reason it's difficult is because this is a level that cannot be bought with money. The happiness at this level is what I believe everyone in life wants to aim for, which is love. Love can be the love between men and women, husband and wife, or it can be family love, friendship love, or even community love. Next is joy. The joy in life is the excitement that we get to wake up every day to do the things we love, and even higher is fulfillment, the feeling of being satisfied. Our lives are complete, meaningful, and the higher level is life purposes, which is when we find higher goals beyond our own happiness. We find joy in creating value for those around us and seeing others also succeed and be happy. That's when we start to think about the legacy we will leave behind. We leave this life and these things will gradually bring us to the highest level. That is when we begin to find peace and peace within life. This part may sound a bit far-fetched. Even to some people it sounds a bit hollow. But I believe it's something everyone wants, but it's just like an illusion in the desert. I see it somewhere in front of me. I know I want it, but sometimes the problems in life don't allow us to think about such distant things. And like I said, this is the most difficult level to achieve, because all the things in this level are things that cannot be bought with money, and most of them will be achieved with mindset and mindset. Personal efforts, and although aspects of this layer cannot be bought with money, these mindsets can only be achieved after we are free from the influences of money and material, meaning we have passed step 2. Now, as I promised you in the first paragraph, I will share with you the way I chose to solve my chart. If I just talk about my theory, it will be a bit difficult for you to imagine, but bringing up an example from someone else to talk about is not very good, so the simplest way is to share it. To share with you my example, on the first floor, like everyone else, I solved it by working, and because it was nothing special, there wasn't much to share. Sharing these stages to the second level is when I find that I just keep working and then slowly the work gets tied up. I get sick and don't dare to rest. I'm tired and don't dare to stop, and that's when I realizing that there needs to be a change. I have to somehow escape the influence of money. When I get there, I see that I have two choices. The first is that I have to make a lot of money, to the point where I don't have to worry about anything about money anymore. But if I choose this path, I don't know when I will reach that billionaire milestone. Maybe I will never reach it, and maybe the end result will be my whole life just struggling. The only thing I do is to make money, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to do more things in my life, so I choose the second way, which is to find my enough milestone from which I can make the journey to financial freedom. Regarding this, I have shared in great detail in a series of articles about financial freedom. If you have not seen it yet, you can watch it again. I will leave the link below the description for you to see. Again, next is how I no longer have to depend on material things. Regarding this matter, I have also shared with you quite thoroughly in the recent series of articles on minimalist living. The reason why a minimalist life frees me from aspects of material ownership is that I also leave the link to this series in the description for those who haven't seen it yet to review it. As for the next two aspects, which is being able to freely travel anywhere in the world and liberating yourself from worries about health, safety, and the living environment, then what is important to you? But I choose to have another nationality, specifically Australian nationality. The reason is that once I become an Australian citizen, my Australian passport can allow me to travel to almost any country in the world, and if I have any health problems, I can just if I return to Australia, I will be assured that I can receive healthcare in the best healthcare system in the world, and everything is completely free. In addition, Australia also gives me a number of other requirements such as the aspect of safety or the living environment, and that is the reason why I am determined to complete the job with an additional country. Australia now has this map in the West. Now let's try to find our original question, which is whether money can buy happiness or not, and clearly when looking here we can clearly see that the answer is no. Money, it cannot buy happiness. However, even though money is not a sufficient condition for happiness, it is a necessary condition because without it, it will be very difficult to reach that level of happiness. If you have happiness, that happiness is very unstable and can be broken at any time. The simplest example is the saying we often hear, "One thatched hut, two golden hearts." This sentence sounds good, but we see that it almost doesn't exist in reality. Because there is a simple fact that no matter how much we love each other, if we have to struggle all day long with food, clothes, and money, that happiness can easily be broken, and not just in love. Nowhere, we can take another example. The artists who have found joy in their lives. Even for those who are too passionate, it can be said that I have already found my purpose in life, which is painting, but when there is no financial foundation and freedom, that passion will sometimes give way to the problem of food, clothing, and money. On the contrary, now we imagine that if that person had enough freedom in the second floor, they could paint for the rest of their life, no problem. The reason why I say happiness is built on a solid foundation is that happiness will be much more certain. There are some people who don't see this picture, so they just keep focusing on them. Straight to the third floor while the floors below have not yet been built. For example, we go straight to peace while still lacking before and after. In the vast majority of cases, it cannot happen. When I look back and look at it, I only see one group, the monks, so they can do this. They go straight to the highest goal, which is to find the peace of mind, is to find life purposes, and for basic needs. They live on donations from Buddhists. But I once said that even in these cases, the vast majority of monks have little money. Many people also worry about the economic aspect and other aspects of their temple, which is the case for the monks. But for the vast majority of ordinary people like us, it is almost impossible to do so. In that way, in order to have a stable and peaceful happiness, we must go from the bottom up. We must build that happiness on a solid foundation. Only then can that happiness be stable and last long. Happiness is a luxury that even rich people cannot afford, so it will be much more difficult if we are still struggling with constraints on money and material things. This does not mean that we have to wait until we have all these things before we can find and build the things that bring us happiness, but the happiness its construction will be much more solid if it is created on stronger foundations on floor number 2, and similarly to have floor number 2, we must have floor number 2. In this paragraph, I have to use the word mandatory, not should or shouldn't, because without level 1, there is no way we can get to level 2. The proof is that we cannot say that this freedom and that freedom are available to people who still have to eat hungry and full meals. We cannot talk about the minimalist life of people who still have to live in thatched houses. Stones and dishes are lacking before and after, and similarly, we cannot talk about freedom of movement with people who are sick and do not have money to take medicine. If we tell them these things, they will curse us. In these cases, during the survival stages, their goal is to survive the day of eating lunch. The goal must be to earn enough money for lunch. If they get sick, how can they manage? Money to buy a pill to take is already a struggle, and they will no longer have the mind to think about the sublime things above, such as freedom or passion. Those are the things. The main idea that I want to share with you today is that through finding the answer to that important question, I also shared with you the chart that I used to orient my life over the years, and even now I am still using this map to continue on my journey. I share with you my map not to let you follow the same path as me, but to help you through the overall framework. In order to determine your own path, you need to determine what you need in the period of freedom, how your freedom is defined, and what components it includes. In there, and how to achieve those components. After having gained freedom, what will your happiness be and what path will it lead you to achieve that happiness? When I have built my own map like that, I believe it will help you a lot in your life, as well as it has helped me a lot in my life. My journey over the years. I would like to end this episode here, hoping that this sharing will also help you guys like it helped me. If you find this content valuable, thank you. Please share with your friends and relatives. Hello everyone, and see you again in the next episodes.